Welcome to, frankly, what should be a legally mandated series of videos about the police. We're diving deep into the core principles of how police departments are, or at least organized. Because, and let's be clear here, if we're going to critique what they do, we should at least understand the basic building blocks they're to be working with. Think of it like trying to understand why your football team is doing a terrible job, before realizing they think a first down is actually awarded after just 1 yard. It's going to be a long season, folks. Today we're talking efficiency, accountability, all those words that sound great in theory but, let's be honest, don't always translate to the real world. This isn't about donuts and high-speed chases. This is the structural stuff, the foundation on which everything else sits. And trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds. Buckle up. This is about as basic as it gets, folks. In police work, you've got one direct superior. One. That's it. Not two, not a committee, one. Why? Because getting conflicting orders in a high-stakes situation isn't just bad for morale, it can be downright deadly. Imagine being told to hold fire by one superior while another is screaming for you to engage. Exactly. It's a recipe for disaster. This principle ensures everyone's on the same page, or at least vaguely singing from the same hymn sheet. This is about how orders flow downhill. You've got the chief at the top, then it trickles down to captains, lieutenants, sergeants, all the way to the officers on the street. It's like a game of telephone, but instead of whispering blue giraffe at the end, you're hoping the message is maintain public order and not accidentally declare martial law. This structure is all about accountability and ensuring everyone knows their place. And yes, before you ask, it can and often does get bogged down in bureaucracy. We'll get to that. Even the most power-hungry police chief can't micromanage every parking ticket. That's where delegation comes in. This principle is about giving lower-ranking officers the authority to make decisions without needing approval for every little thing. It's about empowering them, trusting their judgment, and freeing up higher-ups to deal with, the actual important stuff. Of course, this assumes those higher-ups actually trust the judgment of their subordinates. Big assumption, I know. Chapter 4. Span of Control. How many subordinates can one person handle before it all goes pear-shaped? This is a fancy way of saying there's a limit to how many people one person can effectively supervise. Too few, and you've got overpaid babysitters. Too many, and it's like herding cats, but the cats have guns and the authority to detain people. This balance is crucial. It's about ensuring sergeants aren't drowning in paperwork while their officers are out there playing real-life Grand Theft Auto. Chapter 5. Command responsibility. The buck stops. Well, somewhere up there. This is where things get serious. Command responsibility means that leaders are responsible for the actions of their subordinates. If an officer messes up, the captain might be held accountable too. It's a way to ensure everyone at the top is invested in proper training and oversight. Of course, whether this accountability actually happens is a discussion for another day, and by another day, I mean every news cycle ever. Chapter 7. Hierarchy, who you know matters less than who outranks you. We've all seen the movies. The grizzled veteran cop who knows everyone, bends the rules, gets things done. Well, in theory, the hierarchy principle throws a wet blanket on all that. It's about having a clear chain of command where everyone knows their place. It's supposed to eliminate confusion and favoritism. Of course, whether it actually achieves that is debatable. After all, we've all met a middle manager who thinks they're far more important than they actually are. Chapter 7. Division of Labor. Because not everyone can be a homicide detective, sadly. You wouldn't want a traffic cop performing surgery, would you? This principle is all about specialization. You've got your homicide detectives, your K-9 units, your traffic cops, each trained for specific tasks. It's about maximizing efficiency and making sure the right people with the right skills are handling the right situations. Of course, this assumes adequate funding and training for each department, which, let's be honest, is not always a given. Chapter 8. Accountability. Remember all that stuff we talked about? This is where it matters. This one is pretty self-explanatory. It means officers are responsible for their actions. If they break the law, they face consequences, just like the rest of us. Well, ideally, just like the rest of us. This principle is about maintaining public trust and ensuring that power isn't abused. Of course, the effectiveness of this accountability varies wildly depending on where you are and, let's be frank, who you are. Chapter 9. Transparency. Because sunlight is the best disinfectant, except when it comes to crime scenes. This principle is about open communication between the police and the public. It means being upfront about policies, procedures, and even mistakes. It's about building trust and ensuring that the police are accountable to the communities they serve. Now you might be thinking, hold on, haven't we heard about a lot of departments being anything but transparent? And to that I say you've clearly been paying attention. Outro. So, you want to reform the police? These 9 principles, as dry and bureaucratic as they may seem, are the foundation of any functioning police department. They're meant to ensure efficiency, accountability, and public trust. Now, whether these principles are always followed, well, that's a different story. And it's a story we'll be diving into in future episodes. Because understanding these principles is just the first step. The next step is asking tough questions. When do these principles break down? Who holds the police accountable when they fail? And how can we reform these systems to ensure they truly serve and protect everyone? Subscribe now, because this is just the beginning of a very long and very necessary conversation. These principles are the backbone of effective law enforcement administration, ensuring that police organizations operate smoothly and maintain public trust. Thanks for watching, and stay informed.